let's take a look at someone many of us might know, our good old friend, John Doe. Now, John just graduated college. As he's getting ready to head out into the real world, he realized it's about time he got himself a credit card. Lucky for him, a credit card company had set up shop right there on campus, looking for financially clueless young adults to take money from. John, unaware of their intentions, quickly signs the contract without giving it much thought and earns himself his very own credit card. Over the next few weeks, the recent graduate celebrates by treating himself and his friends to exorbitant amounts of food, drinks, and party activities. But one day, John gets a notice from his credit card company with his bill. Realizing he currently doesn't have the amount due, he just shrugs it off and decides to get to it later. But as the next payment period comes around, the amount John owes skyrockets. And this is the start of a never-ending cycle, as John becomes deeper and deeper in debt, and many of his young dreams come to a halt as he simply can't break even. Millions of Americans are in a similar situation as John. A study done by an independent nonprofit organization, the Pew Trust Funds, found that 80% of Americans are caught up in some type of debt. The highest of those being mortgages, which, as found by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, has increased by a staggering $87 billion in just the last 3 months alone. Now, behind mortgages is student loan debts. The Institute of College Access and Success has found that over 45 million individuals owe just about $1.6 trillion collectively back in student loans. That is just about 35 grand a person. Now, just saying the facts isn't going to mean anything. Like my dad always says, talking about a problem without providing solutions is just complaining. So, how do we solve this? The government in the past has done many things to try to decrease debt in America, and yes, they have worked to some extent. But these are only temporary fixes. The best way to address an issue is to get to its root. And in this case, with the problem at such high magnitude, there are many factors that can contribute to its cause. But it is still possible to address one area that can deem beneficial in the future. Now, let's take a glance back at John. Where did he go wrong? Some of you might say, he shouldn't have blown all his money hanging out with friends. Others might say, he should have read the fine print when signing the credit card statement. But the bottom line is, most people believe it's John's fault. And yes, we can point blame to John, but I don't think it's entirely his fault. Before going off into the real world by himself, John should have been equipped with the tools to allow him to make financially responsible decisions. If someone had taught him how to manage money and how to be financially literate, then yes, 100% I agree, John was at fault. But unfortunately, that most likely wasn't the case. You see, we spend the majority of our lives in school. 7 hours a day, 180 days a year, for more than 12 years of our life. We learn so many different things, from, let's say, finding the asymptote of rational functions, to analyzing how a speaker uses ethos to support their affirmative argument. We learn all these things, and sure, they're important to some people in certain fields, but they don't apply to everyone in their future. But one thing, regardless of someone's ethnicity, social status, or future goals that affects us all, is money. Everyone, regardless of who you are, will have to know how to pay taxes and how to make financially responsible decisions in the future. And yet, in the United States, one of the richest countries in the world, hardly any school has even a basic course on financial literacy. That is why I believe it is essential to mandate financial literacy courses in public schools for students all across America. Despite being the world's largest economy since 1871, the United States is merely 14th in financial literacy amongst all nations. If we want to change the statistic for the better, it is critical that future generations have a solid understanding of financial literacy. A simple one-semester course is more than enough for anyone to gain the basic in and outs of financial literacy. This class should include topics such as paying taxes, handling debt, money management, saving, investing, playing the stock market, and also cover terminology that is essential to flourishing as an independent individual. Now, this course can be offered in high school, where students are old enough to understand the importance of money, but still young enough to apply it to their lives before going off into the real world. Additionally, making this a required credit to graduate a public high school would ensure that all students have the opportunity to learn about finance. Kids should learn what a 401k is, how to pay sales taxes, income taxes, and property taxes, and what the difference between a mutual fund and an index is. If students were given this information while they were still growing, financial literacy would become an inherent part of their lives that they could carry into the future. If they understood all the repercussions and intricacies of their actions, they would be able to decide for themselves whether it is in their best interest to, let's say, blow all their money partying with their friends or invest it into their future. Now, I'm sure a lot of people have rebuttals against this idea. Some people might think that this class will take up valuable course space, and it isn't worth having to move around or possibly lose some elective classes. However, with 4 years in high school, there is more than enough time to fit a one-semester course during a school year which offers 6 to 8 classes every semester. Additionally, the opportunity to gain one's finance credit can be offered over the summer, similar to classes like health and some others. Also, it can be argued that financial literacy is more important than the majority of other classes students are required to take because it applies to everybody. Many school districts around the nation are required to complete a fine arts credit, health credit, and physical education credit. Completing a finance credit should be no problem, as it is just as important, if not more, than some of the other subjects. Let's be honest, the majority of people don't really remember what they learned in high school. However, financial literacy will last a lifetime, and that benefit alone outweighs its potential drawbacks. Now, as a community, we have the power to make this change. We can write letters to county officials and talk with the student member of the board and other elected officers and raise awareness about the issue of financial literacy. As we continue to grow as individuals, communities, and a nation, I believe that basic financial literacy will allow for future generations to stay out of debt and pursue their dreams without being tied down. Implementing finance classes in school will better prepare the next generation for the real world. Thank you.